and welcome back. We are in conversation with Commerce Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. Recently, we saw this yuan being devalued. Experts say that could impact our exports. What is the sense within the Commerce Ministry on that? Is there any strategy?
In fact, I must tell you, on the yuan devaluation, the Chinese stocks falling before that, before the devaluation, are issues on which we have been very acutely engaged. I'm very grateful that the Chief Economic Advisor, Arvind Subramaniam, responded immediately to the ministry. The Commerce Ministry sat with us, worked out a lot of things with us, discussed and shared his thoughts. The Commerce Ministry has spent a lot of time subsequently also to understand the impact. Certainly, the devaluation of yuan will make it possible for more Chinese goods to come into India. As I said, it will be cheaper and they will come in. Many of our people would want to import and so on.
Right.
But we are also closely monitoring the situation, where we would like to see what are the opportunities also. So it is a stage at which China is just not looking at its own devaluation and also exporting more. It's also recognizing that many of the manufacturers who were otherwise placed in China are now coming over to India and setting up business.
Yes.
Foxconn,
Yes.
Xiaomi, lots of them are already moving, and that is being taken cognizance of.
Right.
So if I'm worried about the devaluation, I'm also happy about many of the producers who no longer want to be in China, who are coming over to India and setting up business here. Right. So it is going to be a very challenging situation, which has both opportunities and, of course, definitely challenges which we have to address.
Let's quickly talk about DIPP related issues now. You have had intense discussions with states on issues related to e-commerce. Is there a case for opening up B2C e-commerce? Because we understand that several stakeholders wanted that, and even some states voted for having more FDI in the B2C segment of e-commerce.
On this, we've had quite a few rounds of discussion. I've met with the state ministers, which was on the 15th of July, I think. And prior to that, on the 10th of July, the DIPP officers sat with the banking sector, sat with very many other stakeholders, spoke to all of them, policymakers and so on. Now, e-commerce, you're right, B2B is all right.
Right.
But it is on the B2C, many of them have their own concerns and also anxieties, which is what came across. We wanted the states to also come back to us post those discussions within a matter of 2 weeks, so that we can sit and work on all that has been emerging during the discussions and also through the written statements from the states. Many of them have not come back, and the ministry is definitely reminding them to come back to us, because eventually we should be able to give some kind of a guidelines. So it is a very potent activity segment on which many states are already seeing a lot of investments.
Exactly.
And if such investments are happening, and if they are Indian investments, there's no issue. But if there are FDI coming in, what is it that we have to do? Because as you know, B2B can be discussed, but B2C is where money is waiting to come, but states are not clear. We don't have clear-cut guidelines established. And if you want to get that money, or if you don't want to get the money, you should know why. And you should have a clear framework in which you operate, under which you operate. They cannot be an unlevel playing field where you're stopping them from entering into multi-brand retail, but e-commerce gets the money. Then your brick and mortar is going to be even more disadvantaged. So that is where we are very clear that unless the states come back to us, even to get a guidelines fitted, so that there's a level playing field for B2B, B2C or multi-brand retail, can be made.
So if required, and if the feedback is positive, there is no problem in going ahead with B2C e-commerce as far as FDI is concerned, but states will have to take a call and they have to give you the feedback.
Well, states are not just going to have to take a call on the FDI, they also have to talk to us about what are the tax related issues, because you know already in Karnataka there are issues which are now in public domain. Many of the e-commerce companies are saying we can't be taxed on A, taxed on B and so on. So taxation related issues, definition related issues, issues of where e-commerce commences and where it ends, and where retail begins and where it ends. Where are the overlaps? Because many of the brick and mortar companies have themselves adopted to bringing in trading through e-portals. They are selling in the neighborhood. Even if it's in the neighborhood, they are selling through portals. Many of the e-commerce firms which started as just those running portals for bringing together the seller and buyer are today also warehousing, keeping inventory. So the thin line is getting blurred even more.
Right.
So we are waiting from the states on a comprehensive reply, post which the ministry will sit and work together so that we have some guidelines without hurting the level playing field argument.
Do you see the land ordinance being extended, or do you see we reverting to the 2013 Act, wherein finally the states will take a final call on how the land regime will operate in the final state? What, as a commerce and industry minister and as somebody who is responsible for industrialization, how do you see this land discourse panning out?
First of all, there are difficulties which our ministry has pointed out. In fact, if I can just briefly go back, on the 2013 Act 2, before it became an act, this ministry and the then minister had written a letter which was read out in the Parliament.
Yes.
The ministry's position has been very clear about the 2013 Act by the then minister and now. If even under this, and we all want to honor every commitment in terms of protecting the interest of the farmers, but if a social impact assessment where no displacement takes place will need nearly 48 months.
Right.
And if there is displacement happening, it would take nearly 16 months, 56 to 16 months. Wait for 5 years to have a social impact assessment? Do you think, I'm not even talking about foreign investors, Indian investors, do you think they can wait for 16 months before they say, right, I am now starting the investment? Is this realistic?
So what is the solution then? Because
that is what I'm saying. Therefore, the effort of this government is to make it realistic without hurting the interest of the farmers. And at this time, I would ideally want all political parties to apply their mind, because eventually these are not going to happen just in Delhi, where the central government is. Actually, these policies and these acts, with all the compensation and other things which are entailed in it, will have to be implemented at the states. And in states, different parties are in power in different states. Unless all of us apply our mind to say, is this realistic to wait for an investor, be him Indian or somebody who comes from abroad, 16 months to get a social impact assessment where there is a displacement? And then he decides, all right, from that day, it doesn't work out. So I would think every political party, not just on the SIA, but many other such clauses on which all of us will have to equally be concerned, as much as about the farmer, about the investor, about the job potential that investment will bring in, because after all, in that area, farmers also may want their children to get jobs. Others may also want to get jobs. Unless you're going to make investments happen in such a way that the farmer is not deprived of compensation, right compensation, just compensation, as much as the investor is also not made to sit with his money lying unproductive, as equally the person who's searching for jobs in his area saying, when am I going to get jobs? I can't anymore get into agriculture because it's already full of underemployment. I need to be out of it, but within my area. So for creating jobs, for investments to become meaningful, quick, and also farmers to get the benefit, all political parties will have to apply.
Congress is unwilling to even yield on this matter. They are saying that this is something which they are not going to accept. Given that fact, then are states the next,
No, see, the Congress's unwillingness to me is a bit unfair, because all that we are talking about is, if you think these features on the 2013 Act was much better, why would your state chief ministers say, no, we are not able to procure using the 2013 Act? And for those specific hindrances which the state chief ministers are voicing, Can we now amend it to mean something else?
My last question, ma'am, and this is regarding the Parliament session. It was, for us who were covering it, even for us, it was not a good experience seeing such chaos, during the entire session, especially in Rajya Sabha. So, going forward, how do you take forward reforms? Because it seems no matter which party is in power or no matter which party is in opposition, reforms becomes the victim. Given this fact, how do you ensure that reforms are taken forward, reforms do not get stuck because of political differences? What, according to you, is the way forward on this?
See, this government is committed to reforms. We shall definitely keep moving forward on that agenda. What happened in the Parliament is something I'm not going to comment. Every one of us has seen it. And ideally, I think, during this intermission, every political party is going to be given a word or two by the general public, because we, after all, link and interact with the people. We shall be told by the people as to whether they liked it or not. And I'm sure we'll be mature enough to come back and understand that all of us have a role to keep the Parliament working. We should have the Parliament discuss things, disagree as much as you want, but you cannot have the Parliament not work.
So is special session an option to take forward some very important legislative agenda?
We don't know yet, because the Parliament is still not prorogued. I'm sure the Cabinet Committee on this matter will take a call.
Right. Nirmala Sitharaman, it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.